There we go again. I want to see if I can actually do less talk in this video. And just because I started off the last video speaking with my original accent, which is an English accent of some description, and I moved into an American accent and got quite aggressive actually. Yeah. I'm not going to repent of that because I feel like some of the stuff I actually said is quite important. But I think I tried to do a little bit more artwork this video. Welcome to the ad hoc engineer, to my channel, to this channel, to that channel. What's going on here? Let's talk about the artwork. So maybe those are like wires that are connecting this upper part of his spacesuit to the bottom part. I'm gonna put a blue line along this ridge here. This ridge. Can you please trouble with your nose? That would be kind of funny, wouldn't it? I used to have one of those. I used to have one of these. Do you remember all of this? Do you remember everything that I'm telling you? How about that? You like that one? You remember that? What does it mean in the book of John when he says, little children, it is the last time? What is that? Does it mean that we've been in a loop construct and that some people throughout history have woken up to that? They're like, this is the last run. This is the last time we're going around. And because in quantum mechanics, they say that everything that does happen can happen, or everything that can happen does happen. So maybe we've already lived through the infinite examples of different opportunities for different things to go differently. The only thing that's being consistent is that Jesus was crucified. Maybe that's what it is. It says, little children, it is the last time. It's like, whenever I read that, I'm like, what's he saying? Is it a loop construct? Is life a loop construct? You know, basically, you're gonna have to be born like 10 trillion times before we finally get it right and live a perfect life. And that's kind of like Buddhist philosophy about repeated lives. But there's a lot of crossover between these religions. They use different terminologies to describe what they're doing, but eventually it's all going to merge. And it's going to be a big mess. Because it's not supposed to be all merged. It's not supposed to be. You're supposed to have conversations with people. How are you going to have a conversation with somebody if you're both just agreeing on the same thing? Say, oh yeah, that's correct, that's correct, that's correct, that's correct. That's the most boring kind of conversation you can possibly imagine having. Diversity and opposition is one of the most interesting things about futurism. It gets us there. Opposition gets us there. Disagreement. Say, are we going to use a dark matter engine? Or well, if you're going to use a dark matter engine to get to Proxima Centauri, then we're going to use a fusion engine. That's two different ships. That's more competition. That's more invention. That's more creativity. That's more material. If you just constantly doing this unitary and unitary, I guess would be the word, universal, unitary, collegiate messianic college. It's just everybody's a messiah, everybody's a savior. It doesn't necessarily work like that. Everybody's got to save themselves to a certain extent, but there's ways and means to do that. It's like mathematics. You can't get pi by adding together 2 plus 2. 2 plus 2 doesn't equal pi. I think that's a little bit loud. Look at the time. It's 4:02 in the morning. So it's probably gonna be a big massive whack, whack, whack on the wall. Say, shut up. Shut up. Quiet down in there. Quiet down in there. I used to like acting. I dream about being an actor all the time. And in fact, my Twitter page says that I'm a method actor. So in a sense, I'm playing a character right here. This is part character, but some of the stuff I say, I really mean. I would like to think most of the stuff that I say, I really mean, because I tend not to enjoy lying like I used to. I used to quite enjoy lying. I used to lie quite a bit, but I don't do it so much anymore. Nowadays, I just jam. But yeah, diversity. And I don't mean diversity as in everybody doing their own stupid little thing. I mean, at some point, there has to be some kind of homogenization over what is good, what is right, what is actually profitable. There has to be some kind of agreement on the fact that righteousness is most beneficial to the general human condition. We can get to Mars on righteousness. We can colonize black holes on righteousness. You can't get there on wickedness. Because mathematics is righteous. It's a righteous sport. And if you don't believe me, you can go and read the Bible for yourself and see where all the stuff that you're looking at when you're sitting in your LGBT loving classroom, and LGBT saying, oh, the LGBT have got the best ideas. You'll say, well, they might have some very talented artists over there, but they're not doing a very good thing with their bodies. They're putting themselves in danger and jeopardy. And actually, a lot of disease comes from that. But it's happening all over the place. It's not just the LGBT. It's the sex culture is overly sexed, and it's exposing it to children. And that is most worrying. But I said I wasn't going to do so much talking. And I'm just saying about the LGBT because everybody's so happy with them at the moment. I'm like, what's there to be so happy about? They're not doing very well. They're not very happy with where they are, so why are you so happy with them? Or are you pretending? Is there a chance that you could be acting? You could be faking this? Because I wouldn't be so happy to hear about some of the stories that I've heard, some of the things that I have been privy to. I wouldn't be so happy to hear about that from another person and say, oh, that sounds so nice. In general, the sexual act is not something that you really want to be talking about in detail to anybody but the person who you experience that particular act with. But when it gets down to the situation of people just narrowing it down and cutting out the fine print and say, what's the purpose of this? Is procreation, right? And they start cutting that out and saying, oh, we did that and then we aborted the baby. Is that a happy story? Is that a good story, man? You might want to call me the ad hoc preacher. But I'm saying this is social engineering, man. We've got a lot of stuff to fix, and I've got a lot of stuff to talk about. By the way, don't forget what I said, anyone who can, about the fact that there's a possibility that you could get a trumpet, you could get a computer to do all this paint work like that, just by listening to these. You could get these to move in shapes like that, do shapes like that, but I don't know how to do it because I can't code. I've been listening to the coding book and it's talking about this P char, F char, FB. It's weird. It's crazy. A lot of information to take in. Maybe I will be able to code at some point, but I don't think I'd be the best coder unless I could use this to code. And then I'd want a nice big room and a good microphone, and I'd just code right into this. And I'd have the code printed out on this side where the camera is, and I'd have the drawing app on the other side. This is why this information has to get out there, because not everybody thinks of these things. Many people are still trapped in sleep. They're still thinking, oh, let me make another Coinbase app. So how many Coinbase apps do we need? What are these blockchains doing? The blockchains all seem to be around the same thing. Just money, money, money. It's like, but what does the money buy? What are we buying with this money? There must be some new technology. But I'm very impressed with what the technology has done so far. I will say that, but I've got some good ideas, if I do say so myself. I believe that a lot of these ideas will come from God. The only person who could give me certain ideas is God. So I'm not going to boast. I'm going to make fun. And at present, you don't know if this is my native dialects or not. It doesn't really matter. It's about what you say, about what you mean. That's why improvisation tends to be better than scripted stuff. If you're going to script anything, you should improvise it first. Doing all this writing in your head, that's what's producing these trashy scripts that got a bunch of cursing in them, like I was saying about the games. There's the same problem in the film industry. They've got these certificates, and they've got to hit certain points. And more each day, I heard the S word in a PG. They say the S word in PGs these days. Can you believe that? PG, parental guidance. Oh, is that, it's cover your ears now? How many times did you watch that? They catch you by surprise. So it's not the perfect system. It's got a long way to go. And I know you're probably laughing at me saying, what is he actually talking about? But yeah, I'm just slowly but surely trying to get this picture finished. But to be honest, I don't know most of the stuff that's in this picture. I know that that's a person standing there, that's another person, that's another person. This is some kind of portal, some kind of doorway that's looking into a different land. So if it's looking into a different land, then this green background should be in the present world. It should be like the set of a theater or something like that. It shouldn't be... Or maybe it's quite nice that it stretches backwards like that, because you kind of see that tail kind of going off like that. You see what I'm talking about? Kind of see it stretching out over there. But to be honest, yeah, I find the best way to actually do the best work is to hold yourself to account by making videos. I've always thought that. That's when you do your best work, because you know that somebody might, at some point, even if it's 100 years from now, if your video's still up on YouTube or in some archives, somebody else might watch it. They might be inspired by it. And that's when the technology or the thing or the idea that you came up with might come forth, might come to fruition. But you can't do everything yourself. No man is an island, as they say. I prefer the American dialect for doing a lot of cognitive research. I prefer it. I just feel like it flows a lot easier. It's a lot easier to talk in an American dialect because the words are a lot more joined together. There's a lot more gluons and nuance and even nuances, even though it's a lot more monotone in a lot of cases. Unless you're dealing with certain New York accents and certain Southern accents. Even then, it's very monotone. It's very droll. At least that's how I've understood it from my training. sleeping in the next room. I think I just heard her get up. She's going to be very upset that I'm talking at this time. She will not like that. See what I just did? And that's the kind of mistakes you start to make. I don't know exactly what's going on. I think everybody's slowly but surely being prepared for death from the moment that you're born. They're getting you ready for death. That's the truth of it. That's 18 certificate. An idea like that. I didn't do no swearing. I just said it. And it was an idea that was deep. So in the future, films are going to be less about cursing, because cursing will have been eradicated. And the films that they make are going to be about how deep is the idea. In fact, anyone will be able to watch any film because there won't be sex in these films. They'll have cleaned up the whole show. And there's going to be many, many wars to make sure that that happens pronto. Many, many people will die to protect that idea and to get us away from the system that we have currently into a system that works. They think this works because they think children should be taught sex education. That's the whole system that we have now, is sex education for minors. So they're just flooding the children with perverted information. And what they don't realize is that that has substance. It's matter. It's substance. It's four-dimensional. So it becomes an entity. It becomes a spiritual factor in deciding how people move and how people operate. But there will come a time when it gets flushed out. I believe that's going to happen when Jesus rules in physical form on this planet. Long time away. Very, very many years away. Many, many wars away. Many, many celebrations. Many, many birthdays away. Or as they say, many, many moons away. Literally. Literally. A very cool guy told me that the thing with trumpet is that you have to learn to play quietly. He inspired me to play. I was in a theater play with him. And he told me that if you're going to play trumpet, you have to learn to play quietly, or else you have no way to practice. So first you got to learn what's happening on the open valves without even buzzing. Got a little bit of oil in there. You got to learn to play quietly. You can hear that there's a tone in there, but the tone here, I'm not sure what that is. Could be a D flat, a C sharp. I'm not sure exactly what that is, but when you actually buzz, that will make it, that's not the note it will play. That's how it echoes when you just blow through it like this. When you go, and you actually buzz your lips to get through there, that's not the note you'll hear when you press that key. And there's about 6 or 7 keys on every one of these. So you have that, 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 and you have that. How many is that? There's open, close, there's that, that was 4. There's that, there's that, there's that, there's that, and there's that. That was about 9. And then there's also the intermediary ones where you can actually just work it like a graph, like one of those digital voice readers or whatever, where you'd be able to see the levels, the tone levels, and you can play like that. You don't have to press everything fully down. That's how you learn trumpet as a juvenile. But if you're teaching yourself, you want to learn those skills about how to do this. As you can see, I'm not pressing them all the way down. what else can I say? There's a lot of things that I see, and I'm just like, I was held in bondage for a long time. I'm not going to make this a channel about confessions and all of that, because my confessions would make you sick. They would. They'd make you disgusted, as anyone's would, any young man's would, but it's not a happy place to sit there confessing everything to just random people who are going to come and bite you in the back. I confess my sins to the Lord, to Yeshua. That's what I confess my sins to, and that's what it's there for. But there was a certain thing, it was a confessional, and that's why the Catholics got the special priest to do it and all of that. It was like, why do you have to tell anybody? Unless you've kind of done something which is worthy of you being punished by law, in hindsight, then you should be able to just allow yourself to walk, move on, get on with your life. But yeah, I'm not going to turn that into that. But I'm just saying, there's a lot of things about this world that's so bittersweet, which is cool, because we have life and we have death. You have the bitter life, you have the sweet death, you have the bitter death, you have the sweet life. Bittersweet. It's duality. But that doesn't, to me, it doesn't necessarily mean that everybody should suffer so much. There should be a lot more information about how people can be helped, about how people can avoid destruction, and how they can die with some kind of dignity and elegance. Too many people are just ripped out of the world, just torn away before their time. And it's not a good thing. Very sad. Very tragic. And then you have people who want to make that happen, and who want to literally be the person to go and tear somebody else's life away. That, to me, doesn't seem like a nice thing. You have a lot of people fighting each other, a lot of people at war with each other. That's a fact of life, because people want resources. They want minerals, they want vitamins, they want water, they want food, they want sex, they want all these things. They want possessions. And we have limited resources. At the moment, this particular generation has one planet. We don't have Mars yet. We don't have Venus yet. So there's not a lot of space for people to say, oh, I'm having some trouble on this planet. The farthest you can run to is Venezuela. If you're in Taiwan, you run to Venezuela. And you try and lay low there. But then somebody's going to spot you in Venezuela. Even when people are running from Earth to Proxima C, there'll still be telephone calls that you can make and say, oh, is such so-and-so there? Oh, yeah, could you kill him for me? And I'll wire you some money. I'll wire you plenty of money. It's a sad thing. That's a sad fact about life. There's so much of this murder and so much of this aggression. And the aggression should really be against the true enemy, the enemy of peace. But not a lot of people agree on that. Many people are just like, well, he said something bad about my cousin, so we've got to kill him. And they say, well, your cousin wasn't behaving very kind. He wasn't behaving very well, He was behaving like an animal. So he had to be controlled. Somebody had to criticize that and had to be helped. When somebody says something bad about you, it isn't always because they're trying to hurt you. Sometimes they're trying to say, I need to speak to this guy on some level, but he's so strong, he's so frightening that no one can approach him. How do you approach somebody like that? How do you reason with somebody like that who just can't be reasoned with? Maybe you just leave them to it. You just let them live their life and hope that there's some kind of justice in the next world. What do you do, Or you just avoid it. You just stay in your own lane. You can't control everything. Not yet. And even when you're dead, you can't control everything. In fact, you control a lot less when you're dead than when you're alive. It could be said that you control your reality more when you're dead than when you're alive, because people listen to what you say, and they're basically like ISOs. Those people who you will see, they're basically like angels. They're there to serve you. They're there to facilitate your transition from one day to the next, from one millennia to the next. Those are the timelines that we're talking about. If you can't get that into your head, it's going to be very difficult for you even to make the first transition into life, let alone making the transition from life into death. And a lot of people are torn away from life before they're ready, before they've had a chance to evolve and mature. It's very sad. Very tragic. And not a lot of people care. That's the thing. It's hard to care. To care, it takes practice. You have to practice at caring about somebody else, because as soon as you wake up in the morning, the first thing you're thinking about is, why does my body feel dirty? Or have I had my breakfast? Where's my coffee? You're thinking about yourself. You're thinking, oh, why are my eyes full of gunk? Can I get rid of that? Have I taken my antihistamines yet? Or if you're in a third world country, you're thinking, am I going to get some clean water to drink today, or some milk? It's not fun. It can't be fun. But everybody's getting on with it. Everybody pretty much gets on from day to day. But the sad thing is that a lot of days are spent in terrible, terrible ignorance. Like I said, I prefer cogitating in an American, East American dialect, even though it's not perfect. I prefer cogitating in that. I just find my thoughts flow a lot easier, and I prefer the way my voice sounds. Is that a confession, or is that a confession? That's a confession that I'm willing to hand over. But as for these confessions that are torn out of people, when people are being interrogated by people who are ashamed of themselves, a bunch of people who disgrace themselves by watching pornography and masturbating, mainly men, and women who have strange sexual proclivities, and then they come and try and find somebody that's worse than them, or that made some mistakes back in the day. So they target somebody, they find somebody to pick on, and then they just torment him for the rest of his life. That's a sad state. And that's what Jesus meant when he said, take up your cross. He says, you're not perfect. Jesus was perfect. We are not perfect. You know? Jesus became sin. What does that mean? It means he went from being a perfect creature to he was probably screaming when they were nailing the can you imagine getting nails into your hands? You'd be screaming, man. You'd probably pee yourself or something like that. I don't want to say that Jesus did that, but some of the other people who got crucified probably did that. I know when I used to get whooped, I used to pee myself by my dad. And I appreciate every whooping, but I didn't appreciate it at the time. It hurt. And the anticipation scared the terror out of me. I used to get very upset. That wasn't somebody hammering nails into my hands and stringing me up against a cross. That would have been very painful. But he did that for us. He did that for you so that you don't have to go through every day emulating the failures of the day before. That's what he did it for. So that you could be set free from your guilt and from your bad habits. From your smoking and all of that. This is a very serious thing. And that's the reason why people are being brought together like this. We live in an interesting age, man. I'm telling you. I'm going to try and do a little bit more of this. That's the first trumpet you've heard on this whole video. And I've been talking for like, what do you reckon? About 35 minutes? Let's check that. just destroying your own video. 30 minutes. I might see how long this one goes on for. I prefer these types of games than the ones, the Call of Duty and all of that. Obviously, it's a war game, so you can imagine that some people in war, the truth of those games is that they're either going to try and reveal the truth to you or they're going to try and hide it from you. I think it's a bit of both. Because nobody really wants to know what it would be like to go running around in a battlefield, apart from the people who are out there. They're the only ones who wanted to know hard enough to actually go out and do it. Second World War, First World War, conscription, that's a different thing altogether. If there was to be a world war over this, I can't even remember what the country's called. I was going to say Bulgaria, but it's not Bulgaria. There could be a war, world war over Bulgaria at some point. But over this situation with Russia, there might be some conscription. You know, that wouldn't be very nice, but that's one way to do it. You say, well, you're of a certain age, you have to fight. But that's about the only time I can see myself in this lifetime going out and fighting. If somebody had said, you have to do it. You know, but these computer games, they give you an idea of what it's like, but you don't get no retries, man. Once you get that bullet goes through your brain, that's it. It's the game over. You're somewhere else. You can't continue. So these Call of Duty games, there's a lot of cursing in that. I guess that's my biggest gripe with all these games, and why I want to do something different that's adult, that's grown up, that grown-ups want to play, but it doesn't poison them, it doesn't pollute them. And yet it's not necessarily saying, oh, it's a Christian game, because Christians shouldn't really be playing games too much. They should be having fun, and sometimes games are fun, but it should be for people who just want a little bit of a break and yet want to be edified. They want something to encourage them. They want something to lift their spirits. They don't necessarily just want to be beaten up all the time by society. And that's actually a little bit more how I want to do it going forward, is that if I'm going to do the talking, you have to do some artwork as well. And that will be the best way to do it. But like you see, I'm holding the trumpet with two hands, and yet I'm still able to draw on the screen. Isn't that cool? So I'm a few steps closer to making my electronic trumpet, or my painting, my trumpet brush, than I was when I wasn't doing this. I've tried this before, but it was with a much longer trumpet, and I hadn't bent the edge. So this thing here was pointing upwards. It was pointing up like that. So I had to tilt the trumpet forward and do it like that, which was just ridiculous. Didn't work. But this is not a trumpet. This is a cornet. It's a lot shorter than a trumpet. As you can see, it's a lot shorter. So it means everything's a lot more agile. You know what though? I kind of feel like I need a table, like a proper table. But the thing is, I always buy tables for the room that I'm staying at, the room that I'm in, at my mama's house. I always buy tables for it, then I end up just having to break the table or get rid of the table because it takes up too much space. I've got a table right now that I'm using, but it's a bed table. I'm in bed, but it is 4:30 in the morning. I haven't slept a wink tonight, but I have been in bed for the past few days. I've got to remember to do that. So my idea would be like, seriously, my idea would be like, based upon what note you're playing, the cursor or the swatch would point in a different direction and would travel in a different direction. And it's also about the sequence of notes as well. So if I played that and then I played that on a high register, and I'm not going to try and do it now, then it would do something. It would not maybe go like that and then like that and like that. I don't know how to do that. I would have no idea how to code that. As I said, I'm not a coder. I'm a visual coder. I code by this because actually this there's code being written, or else I couldn't be putting these words on the screen. There's background code somewhere in this computer. There's background code being materialized to a screen, to a blue screen. Every line that I draw is tantamount to a line of code in Swift, the language of this Procreate app. What can I say? But it would be nice if we could see that at the bottom like you can with the internet. But they don't want everybody learning Swift. They want to really protect that language because it was very hard fought or hard bought. It's slowly but surely starting to piece these things together. So I've got a shoulder pad there. But the thing is, I don't want it to look too much like a weird instantiation. This guy's actually a good freestyler. There's a lot of people who can freestyle, but they don't rap. They didn't decide to become rappers. Maybe they were intimidated by the industry. There's a lot of people who cultivated that. They just sit there talking to themselves until it starts flowing, until they start being able to link up these words. You're not born that way. Nobody's born being able to freestyle. Or maybe you are to a certain level, but then you have to go and start reading the dictionary and the thesaurus so that you can find more words to link up. So it's a learning process. It's a skill. It's a skill. You see? Eating is not a skill. Some people think it's a skill, but it's not a skill. It's a gift. You see, some people eat like dogs. So that I wouldn't consider that. But then you have cultivated people who know how to use a knife and fork. But that's still not a skill. I wouldn't consider that to be a skill. The conversation that you have while you're eating, that is a skill. It's also a gift. That's why I stuck on to the, you can find these on Amazon. If you want to do something like this, you can find these on Amazon. These are little, I think it's just called a finger stylus. Capacitive finger stylus. This one's been destroyed, so I've ordered some more so that when I get my new cornet, I can pair it up with one of these. I was getting a couple of hay fever symptoms the other day, even though it was like the 6th of February. My eyes were really burning. It's like that's because that pollen is starting to cool, and those trees even now are being told you gotta get ready You gotta get yourself in gear. You gotta get those leaves prepared. I want to see those leaves shining bright. I'm sure there's conversations like that happening in the spiritual realm. I don't think it's all just automatic. Well, it is automatic to a certain extent, but mathematics has functions. It has functions and it has residual, what's the word? It has functions and it has formulas. So when the idea of spring arriving, the formula is that when the sun begins to shine warmer in those particular climates that have spring, then there will be a spring. The ground will fall out. The leaves will listen to the ground and be like, oh, the earth's warmer. There's more chlorophyll in the sunshine. Oh, I've got to do this. I've got to do that. And they just respond. There's a formula, but there's also functions that actually drive that. That's why they're so afraid about climate change, because they're like, we're going to destroy the functions and that's going to destroy the formula. So you do learn something on this channel, but it's not exactly like everybody else's channel where we're going to sit down with a pen and paper and you have to take notes. I don't want to be that guy. I don't feel qualified. There, I said it. Let me see what's going on here. It looks like there ought to be some kind of... I'm going to draw a couple of circles on here. If in doubt, draw a circle. That's my art tip, number one art tip. This is the one I was working on last time, but that's not actually a picture from... That's from the game design document as well, but that's from much later on in the story. This is basically the front cover of the comic / game design document. That's another thing that I wasn't so willing to give over, was the fact that I'm working on the first kind of comic book that's also a game design document. If I can. I'm not sure if it'll be possible, but I like to challenge myself with this one. As I said, it's called The Last Medici. That's the name of the series. I don't know if that sounds good as a game. You might want to call it something else, but I've also got the name of Operandus. Just in case The Last Medici doesn't roll off the tongue. I don't think The Last Medici sounds like a game, but it could be an original game, a special game. But it'll take a lot of effort to build. But first, I've got to do a lot of work. I got a lot of work done. That means that while I'm talking, I don't know who that is. That must be his girlfriend. You just come on and start showing off. And I'm watching Typical Gamer right now. I just said he usually comes on at night. I'm in the UK, which you maybe could have guessed. But the Typical Gamer is in the US, United States of America. And he seems to have his partner here, his girlfriend. And she seems to be trying to help him out with some stuff. Just bolster the channel. It's a weird world. I like this guy because he doesn't curse, and I wish him the best for not doing that in life, because he's obviously decided he could curse if he wanted to. I've seen YouTube channels where they curse in the show, in the live. I've seen that. It's not against YouTube's rules, I don't believe. It's definitely not against Twitch's rules, but he's streaming to Twitch as well. He doesn't curse. Makes it so I can watch it from beginning to end, without having to switch it off to protect myself. You must think I'm the crazy weakling. And all this stuff. You must think I'm really weak, but I don't care. I have to protect myself. He doesn't curse. He doesn't say curse words. He might say trash or stuff like that. Trash is not a curse word. There's certain curse words which are not really curse words. Certain curse words didn't even appear in the King James Bible, which I have problems with on certain occasions, but that's the Old Testament. There's no curse word in the New Testament. It's like Jesus came along and said, you know what? If I'm going to curse somebody, if I'm going to get angry with somebody, I'll call them a snake. Jesus called people snakes. He called people dogs. You know, he called them animals. He called them vipers, snakes. What else did he call them? Sons of Satan. You know, he said some harsh things, but he didn't use curse words. He didn't use curse words. He was perfect. See, a lot of people don't realize that cursing is actually bad. It's bad for you. It's bad for the brain. It turns the brain into mush. It means that you start having problems. You can get Alzheimer's. You can get dementia from living like that. All sorts of things that you expose yourself to because you put your brain in a rhythm and it becomes like Metal Gear Solid in there. Because you just constantly, you're not thinking of clever words. You're just constantly thinking that it's clever to swear, to curse. And it's very sad. Profanity is not smart. It is self-destructive in the extreme. But yeah, I'm looking at this thing here. I'm thinking, what could it be? You know? I'm thinking, okay, could there be something like coming across this angle here? So I'm going to draw a green line so that you can see what I'm talking about. I was thinking that there could be a kind of like lip coming across here. Eventually, I'm going to get good at this instrument. Already, I'm starting to be able to play quietly. And that was the first challenge that I was set. I can play loud. I can go like that and move these things really fast and make a sound that sounds kind of like jazz. You know, I can do that. My tone is not clean by any standard, but I haven't been playing for very long. But if I stick at this, but yeah, like I said, if I was going to do that. But now I need to think about the shading. You see, the colors that I've got there are probably right. They're probably quite accurate for what I'm going to try and do. That blue you have there on the edge, and you have that red in the middle. Then you have that kind of mauve. I think that's a mauve out towards the left of that lip. But it might be worth coloring it yellow before I do anything else. See, I'm not the best shader at the moment, but I'm going to try and do some good shading in this document. He's got a good channel. And there's another guy here who presents as well. He doesn't curse in his shows as well. They found a different way to do it. They found a different way to make it entertaining. The old school way. And the old school is always best. The old guard. You know, he makes funny jokes. Uses funny noises. He's got a good spiel, which is hard to read. Very unpredictable. But he's not trying to be unpredictable by throwing curse words at you. You see what I mean? It's good. It's a good style. It's called Typical Gamer. It's not an endorsement, but it kind of is an endorsement. I'm not saying go and watch that, but you probably heard of him anyway. He's got millions of followers. But there's a reason for that. Because he knows how to create a show that is friendly. It's not so aggressive. You can probably hear a little bit of his voice there, but I doubt you can hear what he's saying. But trust me, there's no cursing in the show. I've been listening to this since 3 o'clock. There are some quirks to the show, which it's like a quiet taste. There are some quirks. I'll be honest about that. But generally, if you're up at this time in the morning and you're in the GMT zone, it's a perfect listening. I like listening to the radio. It's clean. In fact, it's better than listening to the radio, because these days on the radio, they just blank out the curse words, which is basically the same, because they allow you to hear exactly what curse word was said by putting the beginning of the word and the end of the word in between the beep, so that you can hear what was said, which is basically the same, because you've heard that word before, so it's going to sound in your brain. The voices that speak to you are going to say, that's what he said. I like that blue. I like that blue that was there. That blue that was there seemed to be along the right lines. So that yellow and blue, I never would have thought that would have gone together. But it's starting to create a shape. But first and foremost, what I really need to do is establish what I think is that this side of his shoulder would be in shadow. I think there's a light coming from over here. Like you can see that light there, that light source that I've made over there, that's shining over there. So maybe it would be good to draw the parameters of that light and show that there's a shadow coming forward over here. And I'll just do that quickly. As I say, the only reason why I even bother to attach this to a trumpet is because I want to learn this instrument. I'm not getting a lot of playing out of it, but sometimes you can learn a lot about the trumpet just by holding it in silence and stillness. It's like a sword in that way. Yeah, some of the best swordsmen train just by holding their sword for hours on end, not moving, meditating on the different things that could be done with that sword. There's a scene in, I think it's Hero, where they have a fight in their mind. So all the moves that he anticipates, or the moves that he sees, they have a fight where their minds connect on such a level that they're able to have a fight purely on the basis of what is happening in their imagination. That's a very warped and advanced idea. No swearing in Hero. Yet it's a 15. Why? Because of the violence. They got no cursing in those movies. No cursing. I say, it's period. It doesn't matter that it's period. They could have put curse words in there. I've seen period movies with cursing in it. Certain pirate movies and stuff like that. Pirates definitely cursed. That was the age when cursing became the biggest thing since sliced bread. People just like, this is how we do. It was the pirates who did it. They destroyed the world. But you probably have space pirates who will charge you, who will make it illegal to curse because they're afraid for their lives. They want the best passage through the universe. So they don't want to be, I want this game, this book, this comic book, this game to have no cursing, not one word. You just avoid those people who would say those things and concentrate on the interesting people. I don't find those people interesting. They he's stressed out. He's stressed out. That's why he's cursing. I like people who, when they're stressed out, they articulate themselves or they break down. Articulate or break down. I found some words to say that I remembered from my youth. It's not impressive, man. But the children find it impressive. They love it. They lap it up. They're like, I'm a grown-up now. I'm allowed to watch this movie. And it's all about that. That's a whole problem. That's basically my thesis. Is like, why are we got so obsessed with these disgusting tropes? So I want there to be a shadow. That's what I'm saying. There's a light source coming from over there. So let's just move out for a second. So the light source coming from over there. So this, I'd say the border of the shadow will be here. So it would be a good idea to start blocking this in right now. See that? Connected to notes. Don't know what those notes are. I could probably find them out. See, that's what you ought to do. You ought to have, in fact, that's exactly what I am going to do. I'm going to bring up my Notion app here. And I'm gonna find out what those notes were. So that was an E and F sharp. I can't remember where I played that. An E and an F sharp. You can always rewind the video and see how I played that. But it's a very low register, but it's still legitimate. It's not like so low that it's not a note that you should be able to play on the trumpet. It's still a note that you can play on the trumpet. It's just a very quiet note. I'm not sure exactly what this is. That's kind of like a portal or something. So that's a portal, and this is kind of like the computer that operates the portal. The hardest thing about inventing a game, and it is an invention, is about literally, I think that's how you say it in an American dialect. Literally, some of them. Not everybody's going to say that, but some of these don't say literally. Literally. They don't say it like that. They say literally. Kind of hard to wrap your lips around that. But there you go. You have to try. So there's a light shining there. That would mean that his shadow would be going in this direction. It would be kind of pooling over here. So I'm going to kind of draw a little bit of a pool of shade around here. So that's one of my favorite circles right there. Actually, it looks like he's standing on a ball. I'm going to put on an extra pair of socks because my feet are kind of getting a little bit cold. Bear with me 1 second. I already did put on an extra pair of socks. I'm going to close it up. So this is my new pen. Have you ever seen a pen that big? That's a huge stylus. That's the biggest stylus I've ever seen. You see what I'm talking about? But yeah, I would love to be able to play that instrument where I could basically draw this in about 20 hours. What I've drawn so far, I could draw in about 3 hours just by playing. That's got to be one of the best inventions. I don't know if anybody's patented that, but somebody's probably going to be in a hurry to do that. Somebody who knows how to write one of those documents. But yeah, patent documents are not the easiest things to write. They're really difficult. You have to get a patent lawyer and you need money for that. So I'm starting to save up funds towards that aim. It's all about how you word it. So I've heard all about how you word it. If you don't word it correctly, you don't protect your intellectual property. If you word it correctly, you become very rich. But for me, I'm an open source guy. I like just sharing ideas and seeing if we can get it on the market because I'm a user. I like using the products. I don't necessarily create the products. Not yet. I like using the products. That's why I was saying I like this to be able to be streamed on Twitch because I can't live stream on YouTube because I've only got a few subscribers at this point. Hopefully by the time you're watching this video, there's a lot more subscribers and you're just going through the backlog of the archive. I've got some money that I need to pay my shopkeeper. My shopkeeper's kind enough, my local shopkeeper's kind enough to do certain loans. He does loans now. So you can go in there if you don't have any cash, but you got a payday coming up. You can go in there and you can get some food on a day when you don't have any money. You can go in there, get some food, and then you can come back to the shop and then agree with the day that you're going to pay him back, and you can pay him back on the day. Today's my day to pay him back because I got some money today. Got some cash. So, yeah, look at that. Look at this. It's English money. Beautiful money. So well made. Really nice money. Yeah, that live stream ended. So I'm going to switch on some worship music. Hopefully this is not sacrilegious. The fact that I'm speaking in what is effectively a dialect that is not native to me. Maybe there's something else that I could watch instead. I like this show though. I want to show you some of this stuff, man. Irk Tonal. Don't get caught up, tighten up. Exactly right. So there's all this stuff on YouTube, right? I might put on some Sky. Just turn the volume down just a touch. Yeah, you know, this video is gonna end any minute now, man. It's gone on for a long time. What the hell? 1 hour. I'm gonna stop it there, guys. Okay? I'm gonna call it a day there.